Are you failing invisible tests and blaming chance? Women instinctively test for reliability, boundaries, and integrity, not to punish, but to map your value. These tests are ancient social signals filtered through modern apps and nightlife. They reveal whether you are a fortress or a house of cards. Understand the 3 red flags they probe, and you stop reacting. You start passing, predictably, calmly, without theatrical effort. Learn the 3 red flags, the Jungian logic behind them, and 3 exact behaviours that convert tests into status. Presence is a promise. Show up and you speak it. Miss a small thing and you break it. She begins small. A late message. A vague plan. A test dressed as a courtesy. Nothing cinematic, nothing obvious. A single cancellation. A soft, "I'll text you later." She watches the space between words. She measures the silence. Do not romanticize this. It is not malice. It is a probe, a quick clinical check to see if you keep your word when the stakes are still cheap. Dependability is the first gate because it sorts the serious from the theatrical. Before attraction, before chemistry, before sex or ceremony, she wants to know who you are when the world is quiet and no one is watching. That is the acid test. The rest is costume. Listen carefully. When you answer every ping, when you rescue every mood, when you avail yourself to every trivial demand, you teach a dangerous lesson. Availability equals your default. You have priced yourself at convenience. Convenience is not worth desire. Convenience is not worth respect. The first truth you must accept: consistency compounds. Small acts, repeated, become the architecture of a man's reputation. A man who arrives when promised is trusted. A man who cancels when bored is catalogued. The ledger of trust is written in tiny transactions. Do this now. Open your calendar. Look at the appointments you keep easily and the ones you postpone. Notice who you honor and who you ghost. This is not about cruelty. This is bookkeeping. There is an internal enemy here, the inner servant. It whispers, be liked, be available, smooth the edges. It confuses being liked with being powerful. The servant wants immediate approval. It will push you to answer at once, to soothe, to explain. It will instruct you to over-deliver. It will erode your scarcity from the inside. Discipline the servant. 3 micro-rules to install tonight. Micro-rule 1, the 2-line rule. For 7 days, reply to non-essential messages in no more than 2 lines. Be economical. Confirm commitments. Do not elaborately excuse or entangle yourself. Brevity trains weight. Micro-rule 2, the cancellation test. Cancel 1 non-critical plan within the week with a short, firm reason. No drama, no apology theater. Observe who adjusts. Notice who complains, who chases, who respects. Micro-rule 3, the ledger practice. Every evening write 1 line, who noticed, who didn't, and what changed. Do this for 7 days. Patterns reveal truth. Pause, breathe, do it. There is a method to this austerity. When you refuse the instinct to be always present, you force others to translate your silence. They ask themselves, did he lose interest? Is he busy? Is he indifferent? Their minds begin to fill the blank. Projection begins. Jung told us that the unconscious paints what the conscious denies. Your silence becomes a space where desire and fear sketch their versions of you. That is powerful, but only if you are intentional. Reliability is not emotionless. It is not the absence of warmth. It is the choice to deliver what matters, when it matters. It is the difference between a man who pleads and a man who decides. Decide. Now look at the simplest social error: reactive availability. A man receives a late-night message and replies immediately, overcompensating with wit, attention, and proof. He thinks he is showing interest. He is teaching dependency. The woman notices the speed more than the content. Speed reveals hunger. Hunger kills power. Instead, slow the tempo. Wait. Measure. Respond with containment. Practice this. When a message triggers a quick emotional churn, answer after 30 breaths. Not out of spite, out of calibration. 30 breaths make the knee-jerk into intention. 30 breaths convert reaction into message. There is a craft to being reliably scarce. It is not absence for drama. It is not coldness for the sake of mystique. It is a ledger. Keep entries. Make predictable scarcity your signature. She scans for patterns, not for theatrics, but for a man who can be counted on to be himself. Imagine a fortress on a hill. Its light is not everywhere. It is deliberate. The watchmen light lamps in particular windows at appointed hours. Villagers know where to find signal and where the walls remain closed. There is comfort in a reliable order. You are the commander of that fortress. Do not throw the doors open for every petition. Now the tests you will pass when you learn this. First, the dependability probe. She offers something small, a plan that could be ducked, a message phrased like an afterthought. She watches whether you arrive with the same tone when stakes are low. Do not misinterpret silence for disinterest. Often, the man's behavior following a minor test reveals his baseline. A man who is steady in small things will be steady in large. A man who is performative in grand moments and absent elsewhere is a patchwork. The mind notices patchwork. Second, the refusal test. This is quiet but decisive. She throws a tiny inconvenience your way, a change of time, a request for attention at an awkward hour, and watches whether you sacrifice your own boundaries to please. Many men collapse here. They bend their calendars to be adored. They confuse pliability with kindness. That mistake costs them trust. Predictability, anchored in integrity, builds attraction. Do not trade that for brief applause. Third, the follow-through test. This is the ledger's demand. You promise. She checks whether your promises are hedged or honored. Hedging is the language of insecurity. Honoring is the language of rule. Keep your word. If you cannot, rebalance openly and swiftly, not with groveling, but with an amended plan that shows care and competence. Each of these is small. Each compounds. You require tools. Here are practical, unapologetic behaviors that change the results overnight. Tool 1. The pre-commitment phrase. When agreeing to any plan, say one clear sentence. I'll be there at X. If something prevents me, you'll be the first to know. Short. Final. This signals both reliability and control. Tool 2. The quiet update. When plans change, send one sentence. Time, reason, brief, new plan. No novel, no justification. The quick update preserves honor. Tool 3. The recalibration. Call. If you miss something important, call once. Not to excuse yourself, to repair. Say, I missed this, here's how I'll fix it. Then execute. Actions rebuild trust faster than speeches. Pause. Act. There will be tests you cannot fully predict. Emergencies. Miscommunications. Life. The measure is not perfection. The measure is recovery. How quickly and decisively you mend a broken promise defines you more than the break itself. Machiavelli knew this. Rulers are forgiven when they are competent at restoration. Competence is attractive. Competence is dependable. Competence says I can be counted upon even in error. Do not mistake dependability for meekness. Boundaries sit beside reliability. They are siblings. A man who always yields to others may appear dependable, but he loses sovereignty. A man who keeps his boundaries and also keeps his word commands both respect and trust. Learn the balance. Now, a hard truth. Your inner servant will conspire with your social conditioning to make you perform. It will say, smooth the crack with charm. Explain until they understand your goodness. Make yourself small in order to be liked. That is a trap. Charisma should not be bartered with self-abasement. Confront the servant with rules. Rule A, no excess. Explanation. When challenged about a minor inconsistency, answer with one line that reframes. Do not over-justify. Over-justification signals guilt. Guilt erodes authority. Rule B, the equal return principle. When you give attention, make sure it is balanced by an equal or greater return of value. A compliment paid in cups must be returned in consequence. Otherwise, you are paying for acceptance. Rule C, scheduled generosity. Make generosity predictable but rare. Once per fortnight, offer something of meaning. A gesture, a time, a resource. Let it be noticed. Let it bind. Then withdraw and test. These are not manipulative tricks. They are measures of sovereignty. A sovereign man knows his costs, his limits, and his offerings. Picture a man at a small cafe. He promises to meet. He arrives exactly when he said. The woman watches, registers the weight of his punctuality, and maps him as a man who can be counted on. The moment is brief, the effect long. That single small ledger entry nudges sentiment into trust. Trust becomes proximity. Proximity becomes leverage. Do not shrink from small things. They are the scaffold of larger influence. Now apply this practically. For the next 7 days, you will run the dependability drill. Day 1. Identify 3 low-stakes commitments you can keep easily. Keep them flawlessly. Day 2. Cancel one trivial plan with a one-line message and observe fallout. Day 3. Impose the 2-line rule for all casual messaging. Day 4. Practice 30 breath responses to emotionally charged pings. Day 5. Make one quiet update when plans shift. Day 6. Call once to repair a missed expectation. Short, solution-focused. Day 7. Review your ledger. Write 3 lines. Who noticed? What changed? What you'll adjust. This is not a social experiment for the faint-hearted. It will reveal hard truths about where you expend yourself. It will force the inner servant to find a new purpose, not to please at all costs, but to preserve worth. There will be consequences. Some will pull away. Some will value you less because you are less available. This is good. Those who devalue your measured absence were never buying your worth. They were buying convenience. Let them go. Your aim is not to be liked by every passerby. It is to be counted by the few who matter. Finish with a mental image. Hold it. A candle in a dark hall. Many candles flicker constantly, pale and cheap. One candle burns with steady flame behind a glass, a protected, deliberate light. People come to that glass when they need true warmth. You are the protected flame. Tend it, protect it. Let others burn their cheap lights and tire. Do the ledger. Keep the promises you make. Cancel with dignity. Respond with brevity. Repair with competence. Be steady in small things. Reliability compounds. Noise is the currency of the insecure. Words tumble out, filling every pause, patching every gap, reassuring not others, but oneself. Men pour out their anxieties in explanations, apologies, chatter, rehearsed cleverness. They believe speech creates connection. They forget. Silence creates gravity. To understand silence, you must first unlearn the reflex of noise. When a question is asked, your instinct is to answer quickly, fill the void, keep her gaze warm. That instinct is betrayal. It reveals eagerness. It betrays hunger. Hunger is sensed before words are even understood. Women test silence. They do this unconsciously but precisely. A pause is offered, a gap in conversation, a lingering glance, a question asked in a tone that does not demand urgency. Most men collapse here. They fill it with nervous laughter, with explanations, with apologies for taking up space. The woman registers. He cannot bear stillness. He cannot hold frame. He cannot carry the weight of nothing. And if he cannot hold nothing, how can he hold me? Silence is a throne. It is the invisible seat of power in every interaction. The man who can occupy silence without flinch becomes the gravity around which others orbit. Machiavelli understood this. Rulers rarely speak more than necessary, and when they do, their words are measured, each syllable weighed. Consider the principle. The fewer words, the more weight each word holds. A coin minted rarely has more value than a coin printed endlessly. The same is true of speech. Begin with this daily exercise. For 1 full hour a day, speak only when directly addressed. Do not volunteer. Do not fill. Do not justify. Watch how others rush to occupy the silence you create. Notice who becomes uneasy, who begins to explain themselves, who starts confessing things you never asked. This is the first lesson. Silence extracts more than interrogation ever will. There is a tactical use of silence. It has different faces. First, the pause. After she speaks, let 3 breaths pass before you answer. This small delay communicates you weigh her words. It elevates them. She feels heard, and more importantly, she feels her words matter enough to deserve thought. Men who answer instantly appear rehearsed, cheap, impatient. The pause is royalty. Second, the withheld explanation. When accused, teased, or tested, refuse the instinct to over-explain. A simple, steady look, a small smile, a single sentence. That's one way to see it. Then stillness. This forces her to project her own interpretation onto you. Jung was right. Projection is unavoidable. Better to make her project strength and mystery onto your silence than weakness into your noise. Third, the strategic absence of voice. In arguments, silence wins more often than logic. Words can be twisted, explanations can be mocked. Silence cannot. It places the burden of escalation on the other. When you refuse to wrestle in noise, you stand above it. The crowd, and yes, every relationship has an invisible crowd, notices. Silence dignifies you. But there is danger here. Misuse of silence can slide into passivity. Do not confuse silence with absence of action. The silent man who also fails to act becomes ghost-like in the wrong way. Weak, evasive, forgettable. Silence is potent only when paired with decisiveness. Say little, but when you do act, let the action cut like a blade. A practical method: pair silence with movement. Instead of answering, pour a glass of water. Instead of defending, stand, adjust your jacket, step closer. Motion anchors silence into presence. Silence without presence is void. Silence with presence is command. Test yourself in controlled environments. Go to a cafe. Sit alone. Say nothing. Hold your body without slouch, without fidget. Do not touch your phone. Just exist. Watch how others glance, how the tension of your quiet ripples outward. In 7 minutes, you will feel the itch to move, to check, to perform. Resist. Every second beyond the itch is strength trained. Now see how silence creates space for scarcity. If you are not always speaking, not always explaining, not always present in words, then every sentence you do speak becomes a resource. Women sense this instinctively. She may even test you with chatter, filling the air, laughing at her own stories, probing to see if you break and fill it too. Do not. Let her expend herself against your stillness. The quiet man is the scarce man. Scarcity creates demand. Machiavelli counseled that rulers must be feared more than loved when forced to choose. Fear, in the realm of personal power, does not mean terror. It means the respect that silence generates. Words breed familiarity. Silence breeds awe. Awe is closer to desire than chatter ever will be. Practical drills then. Drill 1. Delay the reply. For the next week in digital messages, wait at least 15 minutes before replying unless urgent. Do not announce this as strategy. Simply slow your tempo. Watch how anticipation forms in the gap. Drill 2. Silent response. Next time you are asked a question with emotional weight, let silence hang before answering. Do not fidget. Do not break eye contact. Let the pause frame your reply. Drill 3. 3-word limit. In one conversation per day, restrict yourself to sentences of no more than 3 words. You will find that scarcity of words forces others to work harder to interpret you. It makes your few words linger. She will test this. She will tease, "Why so quiet?" The weak man panics, spills excuses, insists he's fine, overcompensates with chatter. The strong man smiles faintly and says, "I choose it." Then silence again. Test complete. When you master silence, you weaponize absence without leaving the room. You make her work to interpret you, to chase meaning, to fill the gaps with her own projections. She writes the story of you in her own imagination, and her imagination will always be more captivating than anything you could tell her directly. Understand this: power is not noise. Power is the ability to make others lean toward you to break the silence. And so the commandment is simple: speak less, mean more. What cannot be explained cannot be controlled. Mystery is the shadow of power. It is the veil that makes a man appear larger than his frame, deeper than his words, and more dangerous than his silence alone. Women test men to pierce this veil. They press for explanations. They demand confessions, they crave to categorize. If you surrender your mystery, you surrender your aura. Men collapse here. They believe transparency equals intimacy. They open their entire history like a cheap diary. Every wound, every fear, every thought spilled. They confuse honesty with exposure. But what is exposed too easily is not valued, and what is fully known cannot provoke desire. Mystery does not mean lying. It does not mean fabrication. It means withholding strategically. Think of Nietzsche's concept of depth. The sea is not deep because it hides lies, but because it withholds its bottom. Its vastness is real precisely because it cannot be mapped at a glance. So too must a man appear. She will test you with questions, sometimes sharp, sometimes playful. Where were you? Who was there? What do you feel? Tell me everything. The insecure man scrambles to prove loyalty through disclosure. He thinks, if I hide nothing, she will trust me more. But trust is not born from full exposure. It is born from strength. Mystery is strength. Consider this rule. Always leave something unsaid. A story half told is more magnetic than a story complete. A memory hinted at, never fully explained, will haunt her imagination longer than 1,000 details recited. History shows the power of this. Think of Napoleon. Soldiers followed him not only because of his brilliance, but because they never fully knew his limits. Was he invincible? Was he fragile? Was he merciful? The uncertainty itself made him myth. A man without mystery is merely flesh. A man with mystery becomes legend. Practical steps. First, withhold the ending. When telling a story, stop before conclusion. Let silence complete it. Say, but that's a story for another time. Watch her lean forward, caught in unfinished thought. Second, guard your inner circle. Do not announce every plan, every ambition, every fear. Reveal in fragments. The fewer who know, the more weight each revelation carries. Third, deny predictability. If she always knows when you will call, where you will be, how you will react, you are already defeated. Predictability is the death of attraction. Shift rhythms, break patterns, force her to recalibrate. Mystery thrives in unpredictability, but be warned, mystery without consistency collapses into chaos. If silence is the throne, mystery is the veil draped over it. A veil must reveal outline without exposure. Too opaque and you become distant, cold, untrustworthy. Too transparent and you become ordinary. The art lies in balance. Reveal just enough to hint at depth, never enough to exhaust it. Jung spoke of the shadow, the hidden self, the part unspoken. Most men fear their shadow and rush to justify it, explain it away, sanitize it in the open. The powerful man integrates his shadow and guards it carefully. He does not parade his darkness, but he lets it flicker briefly like fire behind iron gates. She senses it, cannot name it, but knows it is there. That is mystery. Another exercise. When she asks a direct question, resist the reflex of full clarity. Answer with layered truth. If she asks, why do you do that? You may say, habit, and maybe something else. Leave it there. The imagination will work harder than any detail you could supply. Mystery also demands control over expression. Do not allow your face to be an open book. Learn stillness in your gaze, restraint in your smiles, precision in your gestures. A single raised eyebrow, a slow half smile, an unreadable silence. These become more powerful than a torrent of explanations. Imagine a fortress. Outside, the gates are visible, the walls are tall. The enemy can see outline, shape, power, but they do not know the tunnels beneath, the inner chambers, the hidden stores. That ignorance breeds respect. A man without mystery is a fortress with glass walls. All is seen, nothing feared. Women test mystery relentlessly. They will ask until your story is drained, until your motives are pinned down. If you pass the test, you remain slightly out of reach. If you fail, you become fully possessed, and once possessed, discarded. The law is brutal but true. What is fully owned is no longer desired. Therefore, cultivate mystery as you cultivate muscle. Train yourself not to explain. Leave pauses. Speak of the future in shapes, not blueprints. Live so that your actions are visible, but your core remains hidden. The unseen burns longer in the imagination than the over-explained ever could. Mystery is fire seen behind fog. Its glow pulls others toward it. Its warmth is felt without being grasped. So hold this commandment: never reveal all. Silence gave you the throne. Mystery now draws the crowd closer, uncertain, fascinated, unable to look away. And what comes next is the test of strength, the moment when she strikes not with questions but with pressure. Brace yourself. The storm is approaching. Pressure is the crucible. It is the point where silence and mystery are no longer enough. Here she will lean on you, press against you, challenge your frame with subtle intensity or raw aggression. Pressure is not an accident. It is the deliberate test of whether your composure is theater or truth. Understand this: women test not because they hate, but because they need certainty. They are drawn to strength but suspicious of masks. Pressure is the strike of the hammer against the steel. If the steel bends, it was never real. If it holds, the glow deepens and respect follows. She will raise her voice, she will criticize, she will provoke with words sharpened to wound. Sometimes she will withdraw affection, stonewall, create silence heavier than your own. Other times, she will taunt, mock, push your patience to its edge. This is not random cruelty. It is an instinct woven through millennia. A man incapable of enduring pressure was a man incapable of survival. Weak men collapse, strong men remain. Your enemy here is not her. Your enemy is the inner servant. That desperate part of you that craves approval, that whimpers, "Please don't be upset with me, I'll fix it, I'll do better." That servant wants to kneel. That servant wants to buy peace through compliance. But compliance under pressure is not peace. It is slavery. Do not bend. Do not argue frantically. Do not attempt to outshout. All of these responses betray instability. A man under pressure who loses control exposes that his silence and mystery were only fragile disguises. Real power is measured here, in how still you remain while the storm surrounds you. Think of Marcus Aurelius, emperor and stoic. In the face of chaos, war, betrayal, he did not scream, he did not collapse. His writings show a man wrestling with his own mind, yes, but always returning to the throne of composure. To withstand pressure is not to feel nothing, but to master the flood within. Practical commands. First, do not react instantly. When pressure strikes, accusation, insult, demand, let silence breathe, wait. Count a slow 3. In those seconds, you kill the servant's impulse. You show her and yourself that you are not ruled by reflex. Second, hold your frame. If you were standing tall, remain tall. If you were sitting back, remain sitting back. Body stillness under pressure radiates strength more loudly than words. Third, respond minimally, not emotionally. A phrase such as "noted" or "I understand," or even nothing. These cut sharper than frantic explanations. They signal that you are unmoved, unbroken. But pressure will intensify when she senses resistance. She may escalate, push harder, seeking the crack. Here is where most men fall. They explode, thinking anger equals strength. But uncontrolled anger is weakness. It is proof that her hand reached inside your mind and pulled the strings. Strength is fire contained. Heat you control, not heat that consumes you. You may choose when to release pressure back. Sometimes a calm but firm boundary must be stated. I don't accept being spoken to that way. The tone must be even, not sharp. Boundaries set in composure become unbreakable walls. Boundaries screamed become crumbling fences. Picture a mountain. Storms rage against it. Winds howl. Lightning cracks. The mountain does not lean, does not answer, does not justify. It stands. Pressure is weather. You must be the mountain. Yet let us be precise. Never confuse endurance with apathy. Endurance is strength, apathy is emptiness. The man who does not react because he does not care is not respected, he is resented. The man who cares but does not yield earns awe. This is the razor's edge. Another exercise. Deliberately put yourself under controlled pressure. Hold a plank longer than comfort. Stay silent when provoked in trivial debates. Enter heat willingly, so that when it comes from her you recognize it not as threat but as rehearsal. Remember, women are drawn not to comfort, but to certainty. She does not want a man who collapses to please her. She wants a man who remains himself when pressed. If she can crush you with words, she cannot trust you with her future. Pressure is sacred. It is the arena where the boy inside dies and the man is revealed. You cannot fake your way through it. You either hold or you fold. And if you fold, no silence, no mystery, no attraction tactic can save you. This is why many fail. They train charm, not composure. They learn lines, not presence. But presence under pressure cannot be taught by script. It is forged in fire. So burn now. Train now. For when the true test comes, the only question is whether you will break or whether you will rise, unbent, untouchable. The storm has passed. If you are still standing, the world looks at you differently. She looks at you differently. You are no longer just a man. You are structure, pillar, unshaken. And yet another test waits in the shadows. Not silence, not mystery, not even pressure. The most dangerous one of all, the test of freedom. Will she be able to bind you, or will you remain untamed? The final gate approaches. Freedom is the last battlefield. Not silence, not mystery, not pressure. This is the test that cuts deepest, the one she may not even know she is applying. She will test not your words, not your reactions, but your essence. Whether you remain your own man when chains of affection are wrapped around you. Many men pass the earlier trials. They can hold their tongue, cloak themselves in mystery, endure provocation with steady eyes. But freedom unmasks them, because here the temptation is not rejection, it is acceptance, the warm embrace that slowly tightens, the soft prison disguised as devotion. Understand, the feminine instinct is not merely to be drawn to power, but to bind it, to see if it bends once claimed. She will not say it aloud, but her actions reveal it. Subtle expectations, quiet demands, rituals of control. And most men, drunk on desire, surrender. They trade their crown for comfort. They chain themselves with smiles, and in doing so they lose the very essence that made them desirable. Jung would call it the devouring mother archetype, a force of absorption. Nietzsche would call it the spirit of domestication, the slow death of the will to power. Machiavelli would simply call it the loss of sovereignty. Whatever name you give it, the danger is the same. If you let yourself be ruled, you are no longer a ruler. The true test of freedom is this: can you remain untamed even in love? Can you give affection without selling your soul? Can you share space without erasing your own? Picture a wolf. He may lie beside the fire, rest his head on the stone, even share warmth. But if you try to put him on a leash, if you try to confine him, the fire in his eyes reminds you, he is still wild. He is still free. That fire is what keeps him respected. That fire is what keeps the bond alive. Micro Rule 1. Do not collapse your mission into her world. Your mission remains yours. If she asks you to abandon it, smile, but refuse. Not in arrogance, but in certainty. Men who forsake their mission for affection lose both. Micro Rule 2. Maintain your own rhythm. Your sleep, your training, your work. Do not dismantle your structure to satisfy another's whims. Structure is the frame she tested in pressure. If you remove it, the fortress falls. Micro Rule 3. Remain capable of walking away. Not as a threat, not as manipulation, simply as truth. A man who cannot walk away is no longer free. He is caged, and caged men rot. Freedom terrifies and attracts in equal measure. She may resist it, fight it, curse it. Yet deep down she respects it, because it proves you are not hers in weakness, but hers in strength. It proves your presence is a gift, not a contract. Your greatest enemy in this final stage is again the inner servant. He whispers, "Give more, give everything. She will love you more if you lose yourself for her." Lies. She will not love you more. She will resent you for dying in her hands. Respect does not bloom in captivity. It grows only in the shadow of freedom. Consider Alexander the Great. Conqueror of worlds, yet when bound to indulgence, to the comfort of Persia, his fire dimmed. His men grew restless, his empire cracked. A man who lets himself be consumed by comfort becomes prey to decay. The ultimate paradox is this: Only the free man can love fully, because his love is not poisoned by desperation. He does not need, he chooses. His absence remains possible, his presence deliberate. This is what gives his touch weight, his words meaning. Imagine this, a fortress standing by the sea. Waves crash, seasons turn, storms howl. Yet the fortress does not fall. Inside, warmth may exist, laughter may echo, but the stone walls never collapse. That is you. That is freedom. So remember, silence gave you gravity. Mystery gave you allure. Pressure gave you resilience. But freedom gives you permanence. It is the final seal, the unspoken law. Without it, all else crumbles. With it, nothing can be taken from you. The lesson is not to avoid women. It is not to despise them. It is to understand the tests and rise above them. They do not destroy you unless you let them. They are the fire that tempers you, the gates you must pass. Walk through silence with discipline. Cloak yourself in mystery. Endure pressure without breaking. And above all, remain free, untamed, sovereign. For the man who passes all tests is no longer merely a man in her eyes. He is an axis, an immovable presence. He is the storm and the stillness. He is chosen, but never owned. That is the final truth. The crown is yours, if you refuse to kneel.